Good evening. I'd like to call the East Lyme Board of Finance special meeting Wednesday, July 20th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Get the report.
Done. Listen to who? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's probably a first.
Yeah.
Good evening. I hope everyone enjoyed the great weather and the Celebrate East Lyme this weekend. We're going to move along to delegations. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak at delegations?
I will.
Mr. Rando, please come to the podium and repeat your name and address for the record.
Ronald J. Rando, 194 Boston Post Road, East Lyme, Connecticut. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
How are you doing this fine day?
Great. How are you?
Good, and
Well,
you?
I'm up and walking around.
Good.
I know you can't answer my questions, but I'm gonna. I just happened to look at the computer today and I saw this new business, this money that we want to spend here. The first one, $969,436 for energy efficient streetlights. I want to see where that money's coming from. Special appropriations, $60,000 for McCook's. Where is that coming from? Special appropriation for a copy machine. Now, did that copy machine go out to bid? I'd like to know that, and who bid on it, if possible. And then this $480,000 for Class A pumper apparatus. You know, they tell me the old one's got a cracked frame or the frame's cracked. We just bought a hook and ladder for the fire department, which I think we didn't need because we have one in Niantic. We could use it for Flanders too, which was a waste of the taxpayers' money. So, I'd like to know on this $480,000 what kind of a truck they're going to buy for this, and maybe we should look into buying a cab and a chassis that's going to hold up and transfer the body from the old fire truck to the new one. Seems to me, I don't understand how the fire department cracked those frames. There's something wrong somewhere. My kid's got a few trucks on the road, maybe 30. Doesn't have much trouble with frames cracking. And he hauls a lot of merchandise all over the East Coast. I know what the 1,309 is for, but I think the town better start pulling up their bootstraps. If you read the paper this week, they dropped the state of Connecticut's credit rating down another notch, and we are ranked 46th out of the rest of the country on anti-business state, which probably East Lyme is ranked right along with them. They got the worst business lookout in this state that I have ever seen, this town, I mean. And we've had different selectmen time and time again. And what do they don't do anything about it. We got people that look down on people who want to come in town. They harass them. They tell them if they don't paint the building the way they want, they won't get nothing in the town of East Lyme. And the Board of Selectmen does nothing about it, nothing. from Fraser right on up to what we got now. So, all those questions, I would like an answer for them tonight. Probably you can't get them because they're not gonna have them, which they usually tell me. We don't have it, we'll have to look into it. It was like we used to have with Mr. Funk. He would come to the town meeting, and I would ask him a question about the budget or something, and he didn't know. I'd have to get back to me. And if you read the paper, I think this morning or yesterday, and I read a lot of newspapers, my friends, every day. The state just closed their budget. The new budget opened July 1st, 2016. We are $314 million in the red already. So, this Board of Finance better look good and hard about spending all this money. Because I don't think you're gonna get much money from the state come around next budget time, because they don't have any, they have nothing. I just talked to Mr. Famika today at the shop. The state doesn't have any money. So, take a long, hard look, but this $480,000 for a fire truck, we don't need it. Stand up, tell them we don't need it. Don't be like giving the Board of Education everything they want. We give the fire company everything they want. The taxpayers can't afford it right now. And I will talk some more at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at delegations? Jamie?
Jamie Barr Shelburne, 31 McElhaney Drive in Niantic. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the fire engine for the Flanders Fire Department. Being down engines and having to borrow from other parts of town or other towns is a concern to me, and I would hate to see our residents in need of services and have a longer wait time while we call in for service somewhere else because we're down. I'm also here to voice my concern at the installation of a band shell at McCook's. I understand that a majority of the money to purchase this is being given to the town by Lions Rotary and the Public Trust. But who will pay for the upkeep? This budget season, we talked about cuts in lifeguard hours and transfer station hours because we couldn't afford them. The next few years are going to be more of the same. I know that a committee vetted this idea and has agreed to it. Well, committees are usually made up of like-minded people, or even then, when they agree on something, it can still be thrown out and changed because the people can't afford it. Well, yes, we can't afford to build it, but can we afford to take care of it? I thought this was a great idea when I first heard about it, but two things have changed my mind. One, that this is just not fiscally responsible for us to add something else to our town's roles that we cannot afford to take care of. And two, the beauty of McCook's. Every time I walk the boardwalk, I look up at that hill and I think how beautiful it is and how it is just not going to be the same with a band shell on the side of it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at delegations?
John Drabick, 18 Drabick Road. I think you got a lot of nerve coming here asking for a piece of public safety equipment, maybe necessary, maybe not, and putting something superfluous on like this amphitheater. I don't care if somebody else wants to fund the amphitheater, Public Trust, they're great at spending somebody else's money. Let them cough up, say, 80% of the money, and let the town cough up 20%, kind of like a grant in kind. Now, this fire engine business, we've never scrimped on public safety. Anytime they wanted an engine, we're always first in line to support it. But enough's enough. They got a cracked frame. I feel bad about that. I really do. I bought that fire engine, now I'm supporting it. Okay? Maybe next time they should have bought a Mack truck with a double frame. Nothing fancy like these fancy custom chassis they have in there. I don't know what went wrong with it. I don't even know if it's got a cracked frame. No offense, I'm not saying anybody's lying, but we bought a lot of equipment in this town before saying it was no good. In the meantime, it's still in town working away. Now we got two backhoes. Enough already. I want to hear other options towards fixing this truck or replacing it. Good used truck, find a good used chassis to put underneath it. Enough. You people think money's growing on trees. We're in the toughest financial times we've had since the 1930s, and you people are out spending money on amphitheaters and stuff. Kill it. Kill it here. It never should have got beyond the Board of Selectmen right now. They think money's growing on trees. They say, oh, the times are improving. We're stuck with Obamacare. We're stuck with this. We're stuck with that. We're stuck with the state budget that's only going to try to demand more and more. And we're stuck with the feds doing the same thing. The state isn't sending back to the town. The town is going to start charging me for the stuff the state couldn't send back. So now I'm being double taxed for certain items that are coming back, like education. Where do you think that money's coming from? We've got less people in town. We've got more fire hydrants than ever in town. Come on, wake up. You're a little bit out of the times here. As far as this fire engine goes, I want to see a picture of this cracked frame. If it's cracked that bad, it would have been flagged by the DOT or DMV. Is it fit for the road? Is it not fit for the road? Borrow engines from other towns? Well, hell, we got to borrow it from Niantic. That's our town and my truck too. Come on, we got to come up with more options than this. Is it primary truck frame, secondary frame, and all the red stuff that they put on top? What's the story? I've yet to see a picture of it. They say they use it, but don't want to use it. No offense to the firemen in this town, but the taxpayer is kind of getting stretched here. I want to see a little more than just we need, we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak at delegations? Going twice. Third and final time, we'll close delegations. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for Wednesday, June 8th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes dated June 8, 2016 for a regular meeting.
Second.
Second. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
That would be me and Lisa, too. Okay, we'll move on to reports. Our first report is from the Police Department, Special Report Overtime, Sergeant Michael Masick. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening. And, for the record, Sergeant Michael Masick, East Lyme Police Department.
Mike, before you continue, do we have anything in our folders on that? No, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to start off by saying thank you for the opportunity to be involved and present you with the department's budget. I believe that's imperative. A representative of the department have knowledge, access, and control of the budget with oversight of management, i.e., at this time, the resident trooper. The officers of the department have a vested interest in the town, community, and especially the operation of the department. Again, as we did come up on this year's budget, some of the questioning was about the overtime and some of the expenditures, and especially the one line item and wanting a little more transparency. As we discussed, there are several contractual obligations that do come out of that line where our town has generally just bunched all of that into the line 514 item. I had pulled surrounding towns' budgets just to see how they do put theirs together. As I know we discussed, I'd be working with Ms. Johnson this coming fiscal year to try to change that a little bit and make it a little more transparent for you with the explanatories when we do go forward for the next fiscal year. Okay. Okay, so as of now, I know toward the end of the year, we're definitely in a crunch. Some of the implementations I have done, they're kind of far and few between because it is, we are strapped as far as manpower. We're running basically a 22-man department, 24/7, 365. So we don't have an overabundance of officers to kind of cut. But I was able to implement a few changes that have saved the town some money during this time and the end of the fiscal year here. First off, I've implemented the last-minute 24-hour vacation denial. If an officer is looking to book off, they have to take a personal day or a sick day if it's going to create overtime. Where before you could just say, hey, I'm going to take, it's 7 o'clock right now, I'm going to call the department and say I'm booking for a vacation day tomorrow. Well, with that short time, I've denied that access. They now have to either take one of the earned personal days, which is contractual, or a sick day. And if they do it kind of makes them have to think about it a little bit more. If they're going to take that sick day due to our sick incentive, the obligation or the ability to earn 4 more PL days throughout the year, they're going to be denied that. So if you do use a sick day within a quarter, you don't earn that extra day. So it has to really matter to them if they want that day off or if they're just frivolously taking that day off. So that has helped curb some of the last-minute overtime expenses. Comp time that is on there has not been authorized to be used if it's going to create an overtime. So if, say, we have a shift, we have a 3-man minimum, just so everybody is aware of that on record. So if the shift has 4 or 5 officers on, and that 4th and 5th officer, if they want to use some of their comp time, 8 hours of that to take off that shift, and it doesn't create overtime because you don't have to fill that spot, that's fine, that's authorized. But if we're down to the 3-man minimum and they want to take that day and then try to use that comp time, I've denied that usage also. If it's going to create the overtime, again, making them have to take the personal leave day or the sick day. If it's, of course, if it's a family emergency, that's a whole different scenario. We do have an MOU, memorandum of understanding, to carry over days and to use it or lose it scenario. Kind of was a Band-Aid fix. Part of our contract, the officers, as they earn vacation days, get up to the 3rd year. That's kind of going forward past the new fiscal year, because in the past what's occurred is come May, June, these earned days, if they don't use them by June 30th going into July 1, the officers lose them without pay for them. So to stop having an influx of 40 days within that 1 month time frame or 2 month time frame being taken off and now all of a sudden filled with overtime, we've been able to do that MOU. Again, it's just going forward. So again, it's a Band-Aid. Is that going to have an impact on this year? Potentially, yes. But they do now have a time frame to use it, and if they don't use it at this point, it's on them.
Sergeant, could you just, what's the item in the MOU that,
It would be the personal leave days.
so they can carry it over into the first quarter then, or how do they?
December 15th was a cutoff date. So, and then per our contract, if in the 3rd year of earned vacation, going forward into that new fiscal year, if you don't use that 3rd year, those are given back to the town, and there is no compensation for it. There's no pay. So normally what occurs is Sergeant Masick has, 45 days he's got to use, and 15 of them have to be used by June 30th, or he loses them and doesn't get any pay for it. So I would all of a sudden start taking 1 or 2 days off per week, which in turn would create an overtime shift somewhere, especially because we only have 6 sergeants that are on patrol. So me doing that would be a large impact on the department. So having that carry over and using them responsibly when it's not going to create overtime, I think is definitely helped us out at the end of the fiscal year this year.
So now they don't have to, now they would have to use them,
They still have to use them.
but now they can roll over.
They've rolled them over. This is a one-time deal. This is not going to be a past practice issue. This is not a contractual change. This is something that we had come up with management to try to offset and have a balloon expenditure at the end of the fiscal year. So they do have until December 15th of this year, of this fiscal year, to use those. And if they lose them, then that's on them. But I think with our scheduling, and I'm going to get into the scheduling part because that's another avenue. I think with that, we've tried to get it to where there are the amount of officers that need to be honored if somebody does, start trying to use those days. And trust me, it's not like every officer has that amount saved up. I mean, there's maybe 5 officers total that this is really only going to affect. It's not affecting the whole 22-man department, just to get that out there. So it's not like, so it's only really affecting a few people. And I think with them each being on a separate shift, that's going to allow, again, I think it's only going to be by me trying to kind of forecast for a small impact on the department and us as far as financially. Okay. Call-outs must be authorized by a supervisor. So call-outs would be, detectives being drawn in for an incident. Again, falling under state management at this point. If it's they're, as we just heard, the state's under a crunch, so are the state police. If you get that, major crime down here for something or whatever, they're being called out on overtime. Well, they don't have that overtime, so they are not coming down. And honestly, that's almost, for us, that's a battle, because it's two departments trying to do the same job, but they come in and hire guys on overtime to do something our officers could be doing. But again, they don't, it's really based on finances for them. If it's not really the seriousness of the crime. So some of the minor things, we have watched the call outs to the detectives who have come. If we do need them, we have done that. I've also had them do a shift change. Normally they're on a day shift schedule per se. And if I can get them, if it's going to be a case where it may be on their day off, I can get them to switch a day off, or if it happens in, say, the evening time, I will compensate them the following day. Okay, well, you're going to work tonight evening shift at regular straight time in lieu of overtime, and being the following day, i.e. for us tomorrow, he wouldn't come in for that shift. We do have another detective on, or youth detective at that point. So that person could fill that. So the call-outs have to be authorized by supervisor. We had the Touch a Truck event May 20th. This is a great event that occurs every year. We have one paid officer for that event. The rest of the officers, I've gotten to volunteer their time, and we've turned it into, we call it a union function. So they do come down. It is the officers, it is a police department, but in order to save us some overtime money, it's small, but at this point, every penny counts. So I got 5 officers total to come down and do it on their own time. Well, we have the one paid officer there to help with the equipment that we have on scene in case an issue were to occur. Mutual aid, that saves us East Lyme Day approximately. This number was from a couple months ago. I'm sure now after July 1st it's changed, but it saved the town approximately $16,000 by bringing in these outside officers. The good thing about that is we may send one officer and pay him overtime to go, say, help with New London fireworks. They have a much larger department. They can afford to send more. So we had New London, we had Norwich, Ledyard, Groton Town, Amtrak Police. We had approximately 32 officers working that day. Our guys and a mix of mutual aid. So with them coming in, they're not charging the town, their own departments are getting charged. So that kind of helps out without bringing outside help and or bringing extra officers that may be off that day in. That saves us, again, a few more dollars there. Okay, so what has occurred, I know we were supposed to do this a few months back. So since then, some of these, these were implementations I was going to try to do. Well, I put them into effect and they are kind of working. I had mentioned unforeseen circumstances. We have 2 of those right now. 2 of them happen to be sergeants. One of them is pregnant at this time. She'll be due after the summer. And we have another sergeant who's out, has 2 separate eye surgeries that have both failed. Just went for the 3rd one. We think that is going better. But at this point in time, what that's doing is taking 2 supervisors off of patrol. And by contract, obviously, we have a sergeant on every shift, then with patrol officers. Now, having 2 sergeants out, well, that opens a whole gamut of overtime. So what we had done was sat down, took the administrative position that Sergeant San Juan was in, put him back on the road to fill up one of those slots. Have Sergeant Jazerski, Dana, who's pregnant, put her into the temporarily into the administrative sergeant position so she can help do the administrative things and still keep her on, where Joe is filling that void. We have shifted the schedule. My days off this current cycle have changed, as well as a bunch of other guys, as well as my normal shift. I'm now working a split shift. I work a week of evenings, a week of days, a week of evenings, a week of days. Again, it changes up everybody's lifestyle because we get used to the shifts we work, but that's part of the deal with this job is change like that. So going from initially putting that schedule out where we had 35 overtime shifts just right off the bat without, I knocked it down to, I think it was 11 total. So that's, to me, is saving quite a bit there. And again, it's a personnel thing. We're doing the best we can with what we have as far as staffing levels go. Again, this is the one department that is 24/7, 365 aside from dispatch. And let's see. Some of those things, again, I've worked out with the selectmen, because some of these things are contractual issues that have to come in writing by him. These are sit-downs. Again, I think that the union showing good faith with the town, showing good faith, and just kind of doing a quick MOU with the town of, hey, this is a one-time thing, but, we're all here for a common goal. And it's worked out this time, and there's been no complaints, there's been no issues, no grievances or any of that nature. I have to bring it up because there is a union involved here. So again, I think it's been a good faith effort on both parts of town and the department, the members of the department. And just to kind of go over that 514 line a lot, there's, again, we look at it as one large number. There are contractual days, our contractual holidays that come out of there. That's could be about a $60,000 thing right off the bat. If that were to come out, we'll round this up to say 300,000 just as a number here. That brings it right down to 240. That's a separate line item. This is what I found when I pulled Waterford's budget. I pulled Ledger's budget, Old Saybrook's budgets. They took these contractual things and kind of brought them out of there, created their own line items with their own explanatories. And I think in probably the previous one, Camille, when you had said, I apologize, but I have to keep digging deeper, and I think we're there almost an hour and 20 minutes for my 20-minute seat. This would alleviate that kind of scenario, and you guys would have your information prior to that meeting, and hopefully minimize the meeting time and questions you would have. Anybody have any questions for me?
Well, first I'm going to say thank you for taking the time. I can see this was a huge effort. I appreciate you going to other towns and seeing how they do things. So thank you for that. How did your officers receive this initiative?
Again, I think,
You're not Mr. Popular, probably.
No, I'm definitely not Mr. Popular, that's for sure.
But he might, you guys.
Oh, excellent.
That's all right.
Well, it's funny when I walked
Just
in.
don't tell them I drive a gold Mustang.
Well, when I walked into the back of the department
They're
tonight to grab my
watching TV.
book, they said, "Where are you going?" Board of Finance, and it got quiet. So I said, "Listen, I'll gladly change spots with you." Nope, you're all set, Sergeant. So, but no, I mean, for the most part, they have, they've been good. As understanding. Again, we know the town's tight. We know the state's tight. I think I've got a very good rapport with everybody in the department. And I said, look, this is a goal. I've been tasked with doing this, and I would just like to have everybody kind of be on board with it. I mean, we have our sergeant meetings during the month, and I think it's gone well. I haven't had really any problems at all.
That's great.
So.
Without pulling a calculator out, could you, off the back of a napkin, do you have any idea how much your work will save?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
Well, if you don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, because I know it's not just, it's a clear thing. I mean, but I didn't know if you had some order of magnitude estimate.
As far as what my goal is, and I think what should occur, is not to have to come to you toward the end of this fiscal year asking for more money to outfit that overtime line.
Right,
That was my goal, and I believe with how we've done this, I should be able to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we've got two unforeseen circumstances that have opened up some time. One's going to be out on leave for a while, so that's something we have to kind of contend with, and we're
Sure.
making the adjustments to adjust to that. I have put in for, with Dana, we have sat down, put in for COPS grant. Hopefully maybe to bring one person on. Again, this is something that would have to be approved by the town, but we've at least got the application in. It's the same grant I was hired off 15 years ago. Department of Justice it's a 75-25 split. It's basically a 3-year term. 50-50 split, then a 25-75, and then the town has that officer on the 4th year for the 100% and moving forward. I think it's worked. I'm still here. I'm hoping for the same type of thing, and if we can get that approved, at least that brings one more body in. Again, to combat some of that overtime, it's you need the personnel to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at our schedule, we work a 5-3. I've looked at the 4-2. We've had some conversations on a 4-2. It would work, it would maybe sell, but I don't think we have the bodies to do it. Again, it's a sit down, doing the numbers, and because potentially, yes, that 4-2 schedule could save the town money, but I think you need to have the appropriate staffing level in order to do so.
I agree with
So.
Mark, did you work with Mark on
Yeah,
this? Mike?
We've been
Excuse me.
quite a bit. Mike's done the lion's share of the work here and gotten the calculator out. I applaud you for all your initiatives.
Really?
You listed 6 of them, but then it just takes one. One of the sergeants going down. Actually, we have 2 down. Dana's still with us, but when she has her baby, she'll be out. So it takes 6 initiatives of savings and 1 issue that would blow it right back up and wipe out the savings. But we're not going, at least we had the savings. So now we're going to go
Right.
back up to 100%. We're not going 110%.
Right.
So it's always to the positive. And every effort, I applaud you on. And we're heading in the right direction. But your point is right on. We have 21, 22 officers over there. Waterfront's 40. So their overtime budget is much lower because they have more bodies to cover regular shifts. They're not hardly ever calling in people. They only have the holiday pay to deal with, and that's about it. We always are scrambling to make sure we have our minimum 3. Not always. We've taken some good initiatives to knock that down quite a bit. But I think it's we're in that place. Do you hire 5 more? And we talked about this during budgets. Do you hire 5 more and knock down the overtime, or do you have the numbers here but accept the overtime, which is going to be higher? We'll find that balance, and right now we're doing a good job of managing through it. But the town has grown. Our needs have grown. The cops do everything they can to get to as many of the calls that come in as possible. But it's frantic sometimes, frankly. It's frantic. There's a lot of calls that are coming in, sometimes at the same time. They do an excellent job for what they have.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much
job,
for
Mike.
presenting that.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
The next report is Mr. First Selectman. Good
Well, hi,
evening.
we have a lengthy meeting tonight. I'll make mine relatively brief. Of course, we just had Celebrate East Lyme. For a small town who doesn't have a department that puts this on, it's just people getting in the room. And we've done it a few times before. We've learned from mistakes, and we we had a spectacular event. It cost us town money. We have officers all over the place directing traffic and keeping us safe and all that. We didn't have a lot of support from state police. They've cut back on events. SailFest went through that as well this year. Dominion was very generous in their fireworks. We couldn't say it enough that those fireworks were fantastic. Lots of comments out on social media and in my inbox. And Dominion's generous donation makes that all possible. I differ in opinion about our building and our zoning departments downstairs. I've been to 10 ribbon cuttings in the last couple months. I just wrote them down. 10. Our building and zoning departments work with people coming in with plans that are accurate. I mean, we have we have people that come in that don't have completed plans, completed surveys, completed engineering reports, a proper design of the building. And yeah, we're going to turn those around. I'm proud that they do, because what we have, the end product is fantastic. The Orthopedic Partners building is beautiful if you haven't been in there. And they, at the ribbon cutting, applauded our zoning and our building departments and all the commissions that they had to go through to get approval. And the Bayside building has recently opened up. Marvel Home Decorators came to this town from New London because they wanted to do business here. And they marveled at how great it was to do business in
Where are
East
they
Lyme.
located?
They're in Flanders, where Citizens Bank is.
Oh,
In that mall and in that strip center, and they came over from New London. I think they were at the Marshalls.
yeah, I know.
And they've been in business for 27 years, and they uprooted and came over here.
That's great.
Rebecca's in Flanders has opened, and each one of these businesses has put their heart and soul and their on the line. They take their investments and they put it out there, and they reinvest in their business, or they have a belief that something's going to be good here in East Lyme, and they come here. And orthopedic was amazing. Gary Smith at Bayside, that building, and Charter Oak believing in East Lyme. And giving the money for the Bayside building, which is where all the new stores are, and the apartments. We just had the ribbon cutting this past Saturday. So
What's Rebecca's?
Rebecca's is where Frank's Gourmet used to be in Flanders,
Restaurant.
and then it was a Flanders diner,
Yeah.
and now it's Rebecca's. It's a pasta shop, all pasta made on premises, and it's a little commercial. The Lions Art Show and Lobster Dinner was a great success on the grounds here at Town Hall over the 4th of July weekend. Got to hand it to the Lions, who are generously donating $20,000 toward the band shell. You'll hear more about that later. The Rotarians did, and the public trusted. The $60,000 you see, of course, on your agenda tonight is all donated money that we're turning into the band shell, which should take relatively little or no maintenance. But we'll talk about that when we get to that part. The police are inundated with kindness. People throughout this town are giving from their hearts and are showing their kindness by somebody walked in with 20 grinders on Monday to say thank you to the police department. Anonymous. People are dropping off gift cards and donuts and all that stuff. And the outpouring is, we do appreciate the police. We appreciate the community police. We appreciate our fire departments who are here tonight. So it's warms your heart a little bit when you hear these stories that it's our citizens that are out there doing that. Listen, it's a busy season. It's traffic. There's beach parking issues. There's always going to be that. But we're getting through it. We've had 2 busy weekends in a row, and there is parking, but sometimes you have to walk, and sometimes you have to go to an alternate beach, and especially if you show up after 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, the beaches are busy, but we're getting through it, and relatively very little incidents. Any questions? Again, you have a long meeting, so if anything comes up, I'll be here.
I do have one.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Just, could you provide an update on the blight ordinance?
that passed in March. So we have worked with the town attorneys and with area towns, and we put together policies and forms and procedures and how that's all going to work. And it is in place now. The zoning department is running the blight ordinance and the regulations, if you will. If someone's interested in reporting a blighted property, they can go to the zoning office and fill out a form. And that way we can communicate back to that person when we feel that the decision has been made. Reading through the statutes and understanding how the process fully works, it could take up to a year to get a property, to force a property to be improved, because there's notification and then a second notification. The Superior Court gets involved, and then a local blight hearing officer would be involved as well. It's very cumbersome. I'll tell you, when we get to that stage, it's also very costly. I'm talking to the Board of Finance tonight. Might we add a line next year in the budget for blight? Maybe a subcategory under a town attorney, because it will add to the costs, because our attorneys will be involved at every step of the way once we get past the zoning office. Because it all is legal. We're going into Superior Court. We're giving notification. We're leaning properties, going in and fixing a property and then leaning the cost of the fix-up if we have to, if it goes that far. But we have the ability to do that. And again, the intention on this was for extreme cases, not for long, grass that isn't being cut.
No, sure.
Abandoned buildings, abandoned cars in front yards, holes in roofs.
Can you give me an idea of how many complaints have been fielded so far?
About 12.
Just about 12.
Not all of them will be considered blight, but 12 have been reported.
And so have you named an enforcement officer?
The zoning official is also the enforcement officer.
Okay.
We're not hiring